Breckel's wartime cake. There are no eggs in it, and that's what's so nice about it. I use butter instead of lard, and what I do first is put the butter, and I've added coconut. The recipe doesn't call for it, but I put the coconut and the raisins together because you want to get those raisins back to juiciness. They're a bag of raisins and they're kind of dry, even though I think they may have oil in them. I'm not sure. So anyway, I just reconstitute the raisins, and I add coconut. You can add walnut. You can do whatever you want with this recipe as far as adding things. So basically, I'm going to start with the flour and put all the spices in there. 4 cups of flour. That's quite a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, and maybe a little more because I cut some of those cups short. I'll also put a little, I put butter in here so the pan, so it doesn't stick. I also, since usually I keep my butter out, just like my grandmother did, but it's cold in my kitchen, and so it's hard to spread. So, well, that's all going to be all that I have, and I have to throw that away. There's no coconut oil. I would have sprayed that with coconut oil. I will spread that butter in a minute and set this on the stove so it kind of warms up and makes it easier to spread. And then I'll put some flour over it so the cake doesn't stick to the pan. All right, so I got my 4 cups of flour, and to that I'm going to add cinnamon, nutmeg, ginger, cloves, and allspice. This is a really spicy cake, and that's in with the flour. I have, okay, it's 4 cups of flour. Then I added the 1 teaspoonful of cinnamon, 1 teaspoonful of nutmeg, 1 teaspoonful of ginger. And if you want to add a little bit more than that, I put in a little more cinnamon probably. And the nutmeg, I used my mortar thing, and that's got actually little chunks, which I like a little bite of that. I've got your cloves. The cloves are here, and this is the ginger. Oh, I forgot the allspice. Now I have the 4 cups of flour, 1 teaspoonful of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of nutmeg, 1 teaspoon of ginger, 1/4 teaspoon of cloves, and 1/4 teaspoon of allspice. And I sprinkled some salt over that. And I also, right in the middle there, it's 2 teaspoons of baking soda. So I'm going to mix this together so it, with my whisk, so that incorporates it with all that flour. And then you can see that my butter, and that was 2 sticks of butter that I added to the coconut and the raisins. And so that's like 16 tablespoons of butter. So now what I'm going to do is add 2 cups of water, and I'm actually going to put it in there so it's a little warm, and that'll work that baking soda a little bit. Instead of lard, I used butter, and then I need to add 2 cups of, I added my 2 cups of water and 2 cups of sugar to my raisins and coconut, just to mix it up in here. And I don't have that over a flame because the butter all melted. So I'm just going to stir that together, and then I'm going to stir it in with my flour and spices. And so then pretty much that's everything that's needed. I didn't use a box of seedless raisins. I guesstimate how much I like because I don't buy them by the boxes anymore. And I got the 2 cups of water and the butter. It says 1/2 cup, but I think 2 sticks is, so I used 2 sticks. And so 1 stick is 1/2 cup, so 2 sticks is 1 cup. So it wants you to use 1/2 cup of lard, but I use 2 sticks of butter, which is 1 cup of butter. And that's because I added coconut and I added raisins, and I like to reconstitute that, and I like a nice moist cake. So So that's in there. The baking soda has been added with the flour mixture. The water is in there with the sugar, salt, 4 cups of flour, cinnamon, nutmeg, ginger, cloves, allspice. So I'm gonna put the dry ingredients, well, I should say put the wet ingredients in with the dry ingredients. This is what the mixture looks like as far as consistency. That extra stick of butter makes it a little looser, which is fine for me. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to continue on, and now that my butter's starting to melt a little bit in here from setting on the oven, I'm going to smear it around and add a little flour so that the cake doesn't stick to the pan. I can do this, but pretty much I put about a tablespoon or more of flour in here, and I just kind of knock it around so that all of that you're probably so dizzy by now, I'll probably cut this out. So I covered the pan with butter and then put the flour on. I put the excess flour back in the mix because I don't want to add it back here because that would totally ruin my flour. So I just mixed that little bit of extra flour in. And so now I'm going to pour this in there. I'm going to have to set you back. So that's what it looks like in my 2-pan. I've got the oven set for 350 degrees. I'm going to bake it for an hour. So I want the timer set for an hour, 60 minutes. Normally I would just put it on my phone, but I'll add it here. And that's 1 minute. Okay. So I'll put it like in the middle of the middle. And there she goes. I'll put the light on so I can keep an eye on it. And so that's going to bake for an hour. At an hour, I'll put a toothpick in it and see if it comes out clean. If it doesn't, then it goes and stays in there longer. All right, until an hour is over. So I just wanted to explain that I did not use that second to the last ingredient on the left-hand side in the recipe. It called for 2 cups of water at the top of the recipe, and then later down the recipe it called for another cup of water. I did not use that 1 cup of water because I used 2 sticks of butter. So I had a half a cup of butter more than what the recipe called for, and it turned out fine. You can just use a half a cup of lard or a half a cup of butter, and then use that 1 cup of water along with the 2 cups that I added to the raisins if you would prefer less butter in the recipe. So good luck with the recipe. I hope you enjoy it. And again, you know, it's a very forgiving recipe. You can throw carrots in there if you want it like a carrot cake. But I like it with the raisins and coconut. I maybe wished I would have put some walnuts in it, but I didn't. You could do that as well, and it's very delicious. So good luck with your cake. Thanks for watching, and until the next recipe, hope you enjoy it.